My name is Karl Vilacoba, and I am the Communications Director for Monmouth University's Urban Coast Institute and the Project Manager for the Mid-Atlantic Ocean Data Portal. And let's see, there we go. Took me a second to get that to switch. A look ahead at what we'll be doing this afternoon. First, we'll start with a brief background on the portal project and Marco. Then we'll jump right into the portal, take a tour of the site, its data and tools, and how to use them, and then open it up to a broad Q&A about anything that you would want to know about the portal. But since we do have a small group like this, I encourage you, if at any time you want me to stop and explain something or you have a question about something you see as we go, feel free to just hop in and ask. So I often start a lesson about what the portal is with an image like this, which is what most people see when they put their chair down on the beach and stare out at the ocean and think to themselves, like, what a calming view that is. Nothing to see for miles and miles. But the reality is much different. The ocean is a very busy place and it's getting busier all the time, especially here in the mid-Atlantic, where you've got some of the busiest ports in the country. You've got a thriving fishing industry. You've got lots of recreational boating activity going on. It's the nexus of submarine telecom cables. And now you've got offshore wind being constructed in certain areas, for the first time, freestanding structures out in the middle of the ocean. And what the portal does is show you how all of these different things relate to one another and in some cases conflict with one another so that people who are in ocean management roles can make better informed decisions. What's on the portal? Currently, about 6,000 different map layers organized in a dozen themes. We have long range data focused on ocean areas as opposed to a tool like the Maricus Oceans Map, which shows the real-time data of ocean conditions right now. And we can get more into that in a little bit and talk about how we work with them to create certain map layers. We have a lot of tools which are designed to help people share maps and collaborate together in groups on projects. And we have a lot of instructional and educational resources, which I'll show you. The portal team currently is Monmouth University's UCI, where I sit, Rutgers University, Duke University, the New York State Department of State, and our developer EcoTrust out of Portland, Oregon, working under the guidance of MARCO, the Mid-Atlantic Regional Council on the Ocean. If you're not familiar with MARCO, it is a consortium that was formed from the governors of the 5 coastal Mid-Atlantic states, which we would define as being New York down through Virginia, to work together on ocean issues. It is currently chaired by Casey Nolan from the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. One of the things we've done on the portal is take a lot of data that was sort of scattered in many different government and other agencies, really focused on the Mid-Atlantic and bring it under one umbrella, curating it to make sure that we have what we need that can help users here in the Mid-Atlantic states solve their problems and work on their studies and so forth. And to that extent, we work with the other portals in our region, including the federal portal, the Marine Cadastre, which is maintained by BOEM and NOAA. We ingest a lot of important national level baseline data from the cadastre. We work very closely with NROC, which is Marco's counterpart to the north, and its portal to create a lot of the bigger data sets that we have, particularly marine life, commercial fishing, recognizing that fish, for example, don't know where the boundaries of Marco end and NROC begins. So there is a lot of commonality there and reasons to pull resources and work on some of these bigger data sets. We also, in some cases, share data and ingest data from state portals for the states that actually have them in the Mid Atlantic. A few examples about how the portal is being used. Certainly, offshore wind has been a major driver in the data that we've been adding. For example, to figure out where areas are that are out of the range of major shipping routes or commercial fishing grounds. Um, Knowing where there might be conflicts with artificial reefs and so on. Not only so that government agencies can help get that better picture of it, but also stakeholders out there, people in different industries can help illustrate their points. And you see that a lot when there's um, federal comment periods, for example, on different wind areas where the portal and maps might be cited to help illustrate points. A lot of people think that the undersea telecom cable is sort of a thing of the past given this wireless world, but not so. About 98% of overseas telecom traffic is carried by these cables, especially with high speed internet and the need to do that. And to that extent, you've seen a lot of new players get involved, telecoms like or internet companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft that are still building cables and using the portal to help design those alignments in ways that steer clear of, in the case of the what you see here on the screen in Virginia Beach area, uh, naval training areas, offshore wind development sites, places where there's a lot of bottom tending fishing gear activity that could get caught on the lines, anchorages, and so forth. The Coast Guard has been a major user, helping with the port access route studies it has been doing for major ports up and down the East Coast over the last couple of years. Helping design fairways that should be kept clear of any impediments to ship traffic, helping design anchorage areas in light of offshore wind, in light of planned improvements at the ports, in light of different projections that they have seen for shipping traffic volumes and changes that are coming in the future. One thing that we didn't necessarily set out for when we designed the portal was for its growth as a classroom tool, which we're very happy to see. And it really keeps us on our toes in terms of making sure everything is presented as simply as possible. I mentioned before that there's about 6,000 different layers on it, but I think you'll see that it's really not overwhelming and it doesn't feel that way. And, being able to make this accessible for people that are in middle school, high school, even, as well as university users, has been a major driver of that. So with that, I'm going to jump into the portal. And you can find this at portal.midatlanticocean.org. Feel free to log in and follow along if you like. Here is the homepage, and right up top, you'll see some kind of announcements of the latest, greatest data and tool enhancements. But you can find out more about them if you click on the news tab and go to our blog. If you are a regular user, it is a good place to just keep tabs of what's new. Any of these articles will tell you what the newest things are, how to find them, where they came from, links to them, and anything else that you might need to know about them. The Ocean Stories, also under that tab, is kind of our homebrew digital magazine meets story map feature. And it tells the stories of different people who use the ocean through our maps, people who are using the portal to help solve problems. So, for example, here's one that we did where I interviewed somebody who was a planner involved in the test turbines off the coast of Virginia and how data from the portal, from the Marine Cadastre and other sites was helpful in helping design the power cable alignment that made landing. And as you scroll down, you see that the map up top will change, and the story will help explain what's in the map, and the map will help illustrate what the story is talking about. And in some cases, you'll see interviews that are done and video clips that we use and images to help um, tell that story. So a pretty cool thing that has been especially popular with some of our classroom users and just different stakeholders out there to help make sure that they're represented well in the portal. The current agency actions page is something that we use where people can keep tabs on proposals that are of interest for ocean planning in the region. And for any of these, you can click down and find Federal Register notice links, press releases, informational pages, and so forth to learn more about those. And when possible, links to data layers on the portal that help directly show these things. We have a calendar here, which you can find out about webinars like this and upcoming conferences and meetings and the like that have an interest to people, to portal users. The others I'll skip for now, except under the Help tab, just pointing out in the Using the Portal page, you will find quick links to short videos, other tutorial content, so that if a couple of days from now you're on the portal and you're trying to figure out how I did something, you will be able to find that explanation here, including I'll put a recording to this webinar on there that people can use and share if you like. So with that said, I'll jump into the map itself, which we call Marine Planner. And right away on the left-hand side, you will see those themes that I mentioned, starting with administrative, essentially government boundaries being shown here. And you can click one or any combination of these that you like for illustration. And in the active tab here on the left, you have some options for manipulating how they appear on screen. So for example, we see these National Register of Historic Places points up top. If you wanted them on the very bottom, you can just slide them down. US Coast Guard sectors, you can click this to mute it. You can click this one to change its darkness, or the X to completely close out of it and get rid of it. You can click the I for information icon, which will give you a drop down with a short explanation about what you're seeing. And you can click more for its a link to its full listing in the data catalog. So whenever possible, we offer direct links to download data in various formats. We have links here for the metadata, for a link to the source of who provided it, or tiles. So if you have your own GIS programs on your desktop, you can find a link and the layer ID so that you can import it yourself. And down here, you can click to clear all layers and just sort of reset the slate and go back to the data tab. Conservation is our newest theme, and it's what you might imagine. It's areas that are that have either some conservation measure in effect or are proposed. And you might see here something like the sanctuaries in the region or nearby of interest. We have, in some cases, state designated areas, and we're working with the state members of MARCO to provide some more information that might be added to this. And certain layers, you can click on them for pop-ups for more information. In this case, it is a Virginia blue crab sanctuary, and it takes you to a link to a website with more information about that and some others here. clear them and move on. Our fishing theme. This is a pretty big one. I'll start here by saying there are three basically major collections of fish data that we have in this. Number one, VMS, vessel monitoring system, essentially electronic tracking of the vessels, like kind of easy pass at sea, right? And we take um, all of that data for the vessels by fishery and create these composite maps that show, for example, scallop. And we have different speeds in some cases, different date ranges. So 2015 through 19. I'll click here, zoom out, and you can see that loading. So that would show where the vessels were. Now, if you were to look at VTR, which we also call our communities at sea data, these are generated by vessel trip reports and essentially show level of effort by gear type. So scallop would fall under dredge, so would some other fisheries. So there will be some overlap, but not total. And you can see that there. I will close out scallop here to give you a good look. One of the reasons these are called communities at sea is because you can use this to figure out which communities rely at different places at sea. So I'll click at this spot right there where it looks very busy, and you can see Barnegat, Cape May, Massachusetts, Virginia, Connecticut, all ports that did their fishing in that date range at that in that time. So that if you needed to, if you were doing something out here that was of interest to people who fish in that area, you would know, yeah, we need to contact people in Newport News and Montauk and so forth. Also interesting with these, you can click on the ports for a little bit of economic information. So for Point Pleasant, for example, you would see about 10% of the regional total of trips for that gear type in that date range were taken out of there. Total fisher days, about 27,000, and fisher days as percentage of regional total, about 4%. So you get that real sense of the economic impacts of it. And then last, I would show down here our newest, the NOAA Fisheries Fishing Footprints, which show gear type landings and FMP landings, gear type revenue, and FMP revenue. So revenue and landings. So another way of looking at it, here's dredge scallop landings for 2016 through 20. And if you look at the legend, it gives you a sense of per each darkness what the range is for that. So another way of looking at how important those areas are at sea from a different measure. I'll also point out artificial reefs are usually one of the most top two or three in any given month, most clicked, most activated layers. So it gives you a sense, I think, of also, even recreational fishers who use this. And moving on, fishing communities at sea by port. So this is a breakdown. We saw those, for example, the dredge 11 through 15. If you just wanted to see, for that example, Point Pleasant, you can type them in and show where 90% of their effort in that date range was. Moving on to habitat, you can find out information about about the habitats and especially along the seafloor here. Bathymetry data you could find here. So, for example, I'll put here two of them which are quite popular. The NOAA multi-beam archive gives you a real good high resolution look at the canyons. And if you crank them up in the opacity, you really get a look at the contours down there. And it's pretty interesting to then do overlays of these with, say, fishing activity in various ways and see how they relate. But there's a lot of other data down in habitat that you can see here. Marine life, um, kind of like we had with the communities at sea, the marine life theme and the marine life library show broader groups and then breakdowns of specific species. So the big summary and then the more specific look at things. So for example, we have basically big groups of bird, fish, and marine mammal data here. So I'll zoom out and you can see various species of concern, or if you wanted to look at all cetacean data, but let's say baleen whales abundance. I'll zoom out to give that full view. Close out of those other ones. So if you wanted to look at all baleen whales, you would do it like that. But if you wanted to look, and we have this by month, just humpbacks. And the month now is June. Where are they right now? And you can do that for any month. So another way of looking at things more specifically. Lots of fish data down there, corals though, birds, bird migrations. Our maritime theme, a lot of human use data you can find here. Vessel transit counts through AIS, where we have full summaries of all vessel traffic that carries AIS transponders by year. And if you wanted to look at it for specific vessel classes, for example, just cargo, you could do that. Fishing, passenger vessel, tugs and tows, a few other examples. Scrolling down, lots of different information about ferry routes, shipping routes, Coast Guard proposals that are on the table. These have been really, I think we've had a great relationship with the Coast Guard, where they have in their Federal Register notices advised people that they could look at some of these areas on the portal. And we will, upon click, give people the Federal Register notice so that they can then look at these and make their comments. Oceanography, layers that basically speak to the physical characteristics of the ocean and what's going on at sea. I mentioned our partners at Maricus, which are real-time ocean obs specialists, and we have a partnership with them where we will create, based on their real-time data over many, many years, something like this that would show bottom temperatures. Oh, looks like that one's having a trouble loading. I'll try another one. So for currents on a seasonal basis, based on many, many years of their real-time stuff, we would do a summary one that would show by month, by season, etc., depending on the data set. And by luck, it looks like these are having some trouble loading, so I'm not sure if there's something happening here. All right, let's try this one. Here's another one that shows seasonal wind speeds at surface and turbine heights. Or it should. I'll just move on and check on that one later. Sorry about that. Recreation data. A lot of this is stuff that we have worked with industries to form or have done PGIS processes to get people's sense of where they do recreational activities at sea or through surveying. So for example, this coastal recreation survey was something that we did with Surfrider Foundation. So shore-based activities, basically where do people like to go to the beach most? And you can click for a pop-up that will tell you um, how many people who responded there did various activities, just biking and hiking, beach going. You can do other ones, underwater activities like snorkeling, surface water activities like surfing, bodyboarding, skimboarding. We also have stuff like boat ramp locations, coastal water trails, and there's different states that have their own data sets that have contributed to that. And then something like the commercial whale and dolphin watch areas, which we worked in partnership with the industry to get that sense of where their key areas were for ocean planning purposes. Moving on to renewable energy, our most the most clicked areas of the portal, certainly the BOEM active renewable energy lease areas. That is kind of the king of all layers, I would say. Watching our analytics, if there was ever a month where that wasn't number one, I'd be very surprised. Um, we also basically have our renewable energy data organized in four kind of folders here, which go from least to furthest along in the development stage. So planning and lease areas, we have projects under review. And for a lot of these, we would put in the specific project envelopes and um, these layers which BOEM have contributed, which show, when possible, the latest publicly available information on infrastructure locations, turbines, proposed cable routes, and in some of these cases where they are actually active, permitted projects, and then finally operational projects. So data for Block Island and coastal Virginia, and we soon to be need to add some information off Long Island into this folder for projects that are currently producing power. Security, we're talking declassified naval information, danger zones and restricted areas being one that seems to get the most traffic in here, but there are others showing, for example, areas where there's unexploded munitions that were dumped back after World War II or whatever the case may be. Socioeconomic, we do have some information here speaking to the importance of the ocean on the economy in the Mid-Atlantic. So you might see something like ocean employment as a percent of county employment. So pound for pound, how much is the ocean important to these different counties? Cape May, which is a very seasonal one, about a quarter of all jobs in that county directly rely on the ocean. Water quality. So you can see here information like wastewater. Where are the sites that there is wastewater of various types being deposited in the ocean or its tributaries, and kind of by what volume? And in some cases, you can click for a pop-up that will give you um, a direct link to information about that outflow site. And that is the last of the themes. I've been talking a bit, and so I'm going to just stop here for a second before I move on to our tools and see if anybody has any information or any questions about anything I've shown, or wondering if there's anything that we have here that you haven't seen. Feel free to just unmute and ask. Hi, Heather.
Hey, Carl, thanks so much. This is super helpful. I definitely couldn't have gotten this far just poking around on my own. I wanted to ask you, is there anywhere where you can see the data sources? Like, would that be under information for something like the whale occurrences so you could know what's included?
Yes. So um, let's see. For any of these, a good place to start is looking at that information icon that will take you to the data catalog entry. So for marine mammals, there is basically a whole website of information that really gets into this, and I'll show you how you can find that. And this goes for our most of our fish and bird data as well. Um, Duke University is really the force behind all this, and so it starts by giving you this summary of it. But if you go to the source link for this, it will take you to the MDAT website, the Marine Life Data and Analysis team, where you can find um, full technical reports on all of this metadata and download all of it if you have your own GIS capabilities at work and take it in yourself. So
That's great.
um, you can also look for the data catalog if you'd prefer to just browse it. You can go this way and just look at our themes um, by clicking on any of them. So for example, renewable energy, you could go here, scroll down, click on any of these layers for a drop down, just another way of getting at it. But if you were looking at a specific layer and wanted just to know about that one, that would be the way to do it.
That's really cool. Thank you. And I had one more question or comment. I saw that the wastewater discharge
Mhm.
layer was from 2019. Is that something that you could use a connection for updating in New Jersey, or would that happen in the whole region all at once?
These are so actually tell me, so which piece of data would you have more
So
current information on?
I'm looking
The
at
discharge flow?
wastewater outfalls and discharge flow from 2019. Chances are there hasn't been a lot of changes, but if there is interest in updating that to more recent data, I could connect you to somebody in DEP.
That would be great. Yeah, for that one, for these three layers, we basically have married together EPA data for the flow, for the outflow and what it is. That's the 2019 piece. And then the facilities and um, outfall pipes were more recently updated by the Marine Cadastre, I believe 2022 for those or 23. Um, but certainly, yes, anything you have more recent than that, we'd love to see it.
I'll shoot you an email after the webinar.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions before I move on to our tools? Okay, so I think to get this started, well, number one, just point out you don't have to be a registered user to access all of this data and do, 99% of what there is to do on the portal. But if you do, and all you need is an email address, it will unlock some of these tools essentially to allow you to save stuff and to work together in groups, which I'll show you how to do that. So if you were to go to data and click groups, this is, like a Facebook group or something like that, say, where you can just kind of create this space for people to share information. You can make it publicly accessible. You could, turn it to private and accept people on a case by case basis. It's pretty neat. So you just click, I'll call it How Tuesday, June 2024. I'll keep this public. You would have the option to give a brief description of it. Um, You could click to add a cover image if you wanted to, just to make it stand out from the others. And that's it, create a group. So here it is, I am the only member. Feel free to go to this groups page, and you just have to scroll down and find it right here, and you'd be able to join. So now, if I'm going back into Marine Planner, you can see some quick buttons to get to a lot of this stuff, but this tab here, My Planner, allows you to do a few things. Number one, to create bookmarks of maps. Number two, to create shapes of various forms. And number three, to import layers from other GIS sites that are not on the portal and then save them there. And any of this data you could then share into the groups so that anybody who joins it would have access to it. So let's do an example here. I'll create a map showing, say, um, 2023 vessel transit counts. And let's say we wanted to do an overlay of this. And oh, that's a pretty interesting traffic pattern right there. I'll zoom out. I'll add renewable energy. We'll go to turn on some of the Virginia information. Let's say we also wanted to add some Virginia Beach area restricted danger zones, maritime. We'll put in the routing measures. Yeah, we'll call it that. Let's say I thought this is important. I wanted to share it with people. I could then go here, sorry, to My Planner and click on here, plus new, to create a bookmark and call it Virginia Ocean Data. Optionally, you could give it a description, but right now I'm going to click to add to my bookmarks. So now, let's say I was coming into the portal fresh and wanted to recreate that map, giving it a second to load. There we go. I would scroll down, click Virginia Ocean Data, and now it will load it right there, complete with the zoom distance and everything. So now that I have it here in My Planner, I could then click this little gear icon to do a few things, to either delete it if I don't want it anymore, or to share it. I could either, through that way, get a short URL, an embed map if you wanted to put it on your website, or click here for groups. And these are the groups that I am a member of. The first one on the list, How Tuesday. I'll click there and share it. So now, oh, if I go back to that group, you'll see it is right there. And anyone who joined would have that now in your saved bookmarks. I can click on it right there to open it up fresh. Number two, with the My Planner tab, and just reload this fresh. Shapes. So this allows you to do a few things. Sorry, it's just taking a second to load. And while it's thinking about it, just going to reload. It's funny, I work in a school of science with a computer science department sitting right above me, which you would think we'd have like the greatest, highest speed internet ever created, but it's really not the case, unfortunately, a lot of times. There we go. So you can do a few things. You can draw a shape, a polygon. You can draw lines, and they can be, multi-segment, or you can draw points. Or if you actually have a shape file, something of your own on your desktop, you can import it and save it, and a few other different file types, CSVs, GeoJSONs, KMLs. But for this demonstration, we'll just do draw. So let's say I wanted to just highlight some area where there is something interesting going on. Say right here, that's done. I would say next. I would title it high traffic area. I could add a description. I could change the color to make it pop. Let's say this lavender one. Um, and I'll say okay, and I'll save it. So now it zooms in right there, and you can see this. So this would be another thing that I can now share to that group. And zoom out a little bit. Same here with any of these sprockets, skiers. I could actually edit it if one day I wanted to change. Share it through the uh, short URL and group function, which I'll do right here. Add it to the group. Or I could export it if I wanted to save this now as a GIS file so that I could add it to my own desktop system. You could do that as well. And then last, user imported layers. So for example, let's say there was some important data layer that we didn't have on the portal that you really wanted to bring in and compare to other stuff. So here's a list of services from Maryland's Coastal Atlas. Let's say I was interested in this one here, charter diving and snorkeling, right? All I need to do is copy that URL and take note of the layer ID, which is number 1. And you can either do this over there, and I'll show you that in a second, or through my planner by clicking plus new. I would paste it in there, and you see feature server, so it's a feature service. Select that, type in number 1, click next, Maryland Recreation, save it, and now you can see it has imported it. And this also can be shared through my planner, just like the others. So now anybody who is a member of that group would be able to look under the My Planner tab and click this and make it live themselves. So over here, we have a print export button. It's what you'd think if you wanted to create a print version of a map. You have a share this map if you wanted to share a short URL or an embed code, a linear measurement tool, just a very quick way if you wanted to say how far is it from here out to here, and it gives you a measurement in miles, kilometers, and nautical miles. An area measurement tool, similar thing, but a polygon. Um, Save it, please. Thank you. And that would give you the square mileage or in kilometers or acres. A quick way to get to the shapes tool would be to click that. And a quick way to get to the import a layer tool would be by that button right there. And then finally, down here, the base maps, if you just wanted to change to a satellite view, an open street map, USGS national map, or gray. Sometimes these are just easier to use for illustrative purposes if there's a layer that's kind of on the fair side and you just want to make it easier to look at. Of course, no nautical charts are available here. And finally, this provide feedback button. If you're ever stuck on something, you could just fill out this form and I would get an email notice that somebody had that question. Another quick way of doing that, we do have an email down here at the footer of the portal pages where I would get those, and I promise you, I would always check them fast and get back to you right away, as fast as possible. So let me stop there now and open it back up to questions about anything, data, tools. I've talked a lot. Hey, Frank.
Yes, you have. Thank you, Karl. So I appreciate this. I see there aren't many of us here, so thank you for putting this on for all of us. Hey, I was trying to play and follow along with you as best I could, and I got behind when you got to the group section. How did you get to there?
Okay, so if you go under data and click groups, that's one way. And we do have a shortcut on the home page too. If you click on collaborate, it will give you options right there in the middle for the groups. And then just scroll down and click on the one that you would like to join. So like I said, you don't have to by default. It'll give you like one of these images, but to make it stand out, I think it's a good idea, whatever you have to put on there. Click on that. Since I'm the owner, it says manage my map group, but for you, you would see a join this group. Now, if I wanted to later turn this to private, I could do that. And what would happen is it would then email you anytime somebody was interested in joining the group, and you would have to approve them. So that is, I think, a useful thing. Let's say you're working on something that's a little bit more sensitive. You don't want just anybody to come in and see what it is you're doing. You're drawing shapes, whatever the case. We have a lot of users who have requested that over the years, and we enabled that a year or two ago.
All right. Well, that's great. Well, thanks for filling me in.
Sure. Any other questions on anything you've seen or not seen?
Hey, Carl, whenever we inevitably get stuck, um, what's the best thing to do? Do we contact you? Is there somebody that works for you that we can hit up with questions?
Yeah, I would say using that portal email,
Okay.
which again, right down here, portal@midatlanticocean.org. I get those, but then our developer does too, and another member of our technical team as a backup. So if I'm on vacation or something, they would see it too. Feel free though to email me directly and even copy that if you want. And I will always, get back to you as fast as possible.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Hi, I just had a quick question. Here, I'll turn my video on 1 second.
Sure.
I just had a quick question. I don't know if I missed it. I was a little late, but is the data in this portal typically like yearly and it's updated, or are they more? I know some of them were kind of updated every year, but is some of it like a one-time thing, or is it typically updated pretty regularly?
It really depends on the data set. There are certain data sets that we do every year. For
Mhm,
example, the AIS data, and we have yearly and monthly data for that going back to 2011, I think.
mhm,
Um, there are other ones that, it partially depends on the source and how often they're updating things. In other cases, it might be, a one-time study that produced things. So I would say um, the source and how often, that data is actually being produced is a factor behind that. And also usership. If
mhm,
there is something that our users were to tell us that they really need this stuff updated all the time, for example, um, you know, the offshore wind stuff, we're doing that like weekly. And as soon as possible, and can't really sit on that. So if there's any particular one you're wondering about.
No, I was just
Yeah.
curious because I figure that there's some that are probably a lot more checked on, like you were
Yeah.
saying, like more clicks than usual. Yeah, so offshore wind, and then also in the summer, probably recreational stuff as well. So I was just wondering.
Yeah, and I'll add too that when possible, we like to tie directly into the data provider source their um, services if
Hmm.
they are updating them all the time. So, for example, um, the BOEM uh, uh, lease areas, if that one is updated today, we will get it immediately. As soon as their server makes the switch, it's going to signal that to us. Um, you know, and in a case where we determine they're not being updated that often we will just house them ourselves and take them on. It really just depends.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mhm. One thing I don't think I had a chance to show as an example are our data sliders. It's just a tool that we have for certain data sets where there is a temporal aspect to it. Like this one, loggerhead sea turtle density. And you could either toggle through this through the months and watch them change that way, or you could click the button to automatically animate and see them cycle through the months that way. Zoom out a little bit. In some cases, there'll be a second toggle. So, for example, for the AIS, where it would have you could select the vessel types on the bottom. Gosh, that's a slow moving load. I thought this would be an easy one. All right, give that a second. Try again. I'm picking some bad examples. Let me try another. All right, let's try this one. Sea turtle density monthly slider. So here's one where you've got a few different options: green, Kemp's, leatherback, loggerhead. So you could change it down there and then also click to animate. So you see how it changes through the months, through the seasons. Just another way to help illustrate some of these things in a more convenient way. You could toggle through to change them. Any other questions? We've got about 3 minutes left on the clock here. Want to be respectful of everyone's time. Oh, you know what? One last when in doubt thing here. I'll show you. This search data widget up there, you can, when in doubt, you're not sure where something is, just type it in. So artificial reef, say. After a few characters, it will give you everything that matches. And you can click and activate it that way. Any other questions out there? Okay, then I will cut it off and also offer before I break the offer of if your office, if people you work with would ever be interested in a a private tutorial demonstration, um, either an hour-long webinar, an in-person one, even if it makes sense, we're always happy to do that. We can do them tailored to your needs. So if you wanted one that was a deep dive just on our marine life data, we can make that happen, or fishing data, whatever it is that would help with your work, we want to accommodate you. So feel free to anytime reach out to us about that. And with that, I think we can end here and just thank you again for joining us. And I will have a recording of this posted online probably end of the day or by tomorrow latest, on our blog and on the webinars page too, where you can find other past How Tuesdays, which were either like this or ones that were on specific topics. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.